Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this author interaction of the 2022 NLF Reading Challenge. My name is Karthika, and I'm very excited to be here. We hope you are too. The NLF Reading Challenge is a 4-month-long reading event from March to June 2022, involving students between 10 to 13 years of age. It runs for participants on the competitive and the non-competitive tracks. We have students from across India participating in the challenge. In addition to fun book-based activities and regular author interactions, the challenge will conclude with a quiz competition that will see the 3 best teams win gold, silver, and bronze engraved trophies respectively, certificates of achievement, and a great set of books. Before we dive into the interaction, we just wanted to let you know to please use the Q&A box to type out your questions or your responses to what's being discussed during the session. If you're a student, a teacher, or a school librarian, please mention the name of your school along with your question as well. Today, we are privileged to have with us the author Ross Welford. He began writing for children in 2014, and his books have been shortlisted for the Costa Book Awards and the Waterstones Children's Book Prize, among others. He's a lifelong magic nerd and was admitted as a member of the Magic Club, the world's oldest club for magicians, in 2019. Today, Ross is here to speak with us about his book, When We Got Lost in Dreamland. Welcome, Ross. We're very happy to have you with us today.
Hello, everybody. Hi. It is so nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me. It's a true honor to be invited to your reading festival. I know, and I hear from a lot of people in India that my books are popular, which it's always nice to hear that as an author. So thank you very, very much for your support and for inviting me. Now, I understand you want me to talk about this one.
Yes.
Is that right? This is one of my most recent books that came out. This is the hardback version. This is called When We Got Lost in Dreamland. And I have to say, I'm so glad you asked me to talk about it, because it really is. It's one of my favorite books of the ones that I've had published. I absolutely love this one. It drove me mad when I was writing it. It was really, really tough to write this one. I think it did send me a little bit mad for a couple of weeks when I was right in the depths of it, because writing about dreams is very, very difficult. And I've got to say that right from the start, because the stories, I'm going to read you a little bit from it. It starts off in a dream. Okay, and the reason that one of the many reasons that I ended up writing this book is it came from when I give writing workshops to young people and to children, and there's that thing that children often do when they're writing stories. Is that you write a wonderful bit of description and a lovely bit of action, and you can't think of how to get out of it. So you just go, and then I woke up and it was all a dream. Yeah, everybody has done that at some point, or anybody who has tried to write has been tempted to do that. And I always say to people who come to my workshops that you're not allowed to do that, that is cheating, because and then I began thinking, and this formulated over a few weeks. I began thinking, well, I hate there being rules in writing and in literature, and what you can and you can't do. And I hated the fact that there was a rule that says you couldn't do this, you woke up and it was all a dream. And I thought, what if I devise a story in which that becomes part of the plot? How do I get people into and out of a dream existence, and and not make it sound like a cheat. Do you understand? It's so that there was a whole, I had to devise a whole plot around this idea that that there was a separate realm of dreams that the hero and his brother encounter. So here's a bit from when we got lost in Dreamland. Just a little bit of background for you. When you this is from the very start of the book. Okay, so the book starts off with an action sequence. We don't know, the reader doesn't quite know if this is a dream or not. Okay, so it's very early on in the book, and Malky, who is the narrator of the story, and his brother have been they are in the Stone Age. Okay, so they're actually having a dream in the Stone Age, and things begin to go wrong. Okay, so they've been captured by some Stone Age warriors. Malky and is about 11 years old, and his younger brother Seb, they've been captured by vicious-looking Stone Age warriors. The tall man's companions murmur and nod. He straightens up and lowers his flaming torch. Then his arm darts out and grabs Seb roughly by the hair, making him squeal, and in one quick movement, he throws Seb staggering towards his companions, who grab him roughly. "Hey, stop it!" cries Seb. His eyes meet mine, and we know what to do. "Wake up!" we both shout. Only nothing happens. I'm properly scared now. "Wake up!" we both shout again to each other. The tall man bares his teeth and steps towards me, leaning close enough so that when he laughs, I can smell his stinking breath. "Too late," he says. "You didn't listen to the warnings, did you? Try it again, strange modern pajama boy." "Wake up!" I shout for the third time. The man draws himself up to his full height, and he's enormous now, and he addresses his companions. "Take the little one away." "No, Malky," says Seb. "Stop them! Wake me up!" This is just a dream, I keep telling myself. What's the worst that can happen? Seb will wake up naturally soon. And then I start to shiver, a small trembling that becomes a shake. My teeth are chattering and my whole body begins to twitch, and I'm going to throw up. And I grip the sides of the toilet bowl, and up it comes, and I don't know how long I'm there on the bathroom floor, resting my head against the cool porcelain in my still damp pajamas. I'm not dreaming anymore. I punch the wall. Ow. I'm in my bathroom at home. I am definitely not dreaming now. I'm still shaking with fear, but everything is as it should be. I manage a wobbly grin in the mirror. I rinse my mouth from the tap and I head back to bed. That's it. No more. Never, ever again. That was just horrible. I'm not going to do that. And I'm furious with Seb for persuading me and with myself for giving in to him. I look at the clock. It's nearly time to get up anyway. "Seb," I hiss angrily when I get back to our room. "Seb! Hey, Seb, wake up." "Seb, stop messing about." "Wake up!" I shake him roughly. "Seb! Seb!" My stomach flips over, and if I hadn't already thrown up, I feel like I might do it again. I grab him by both shoulders, shaking him against his pillow. I shout louder. I slap him harder, too hard, in fact. There's now a red mark of my fingers on his cheek. I'm sorry, but just please wake up." From across the landing, I hear Man's sleepy voice. "Boys? Malky? What's going on?" In those few seconds before Man comes in, I begin to regret all the bad things I'd ever thought about my little brother. I sink to my bed and I hold my head in my hands. I can hear Mom coming. What have I done? So there we have. That's Malky and Seb. Seb, just to fill you in, Seb is stuck in Dreamland. He can't wake up, and Malky can't wake him up to bring him back. And that's where the adventure starts. Seb is stuck in Dreamland. Malky has to go back into Dreamland to rescue him from the Stone Age warriors. And it's a whole load of adventure. So I hope you like it.
Yeah, that was a really gripping way to start the book. I think anybody who follows the policy of reading the first chapter and then deciding whether they want to read the rest of the book will be hooked from that.
Oh, well, I hope so. That's what I always think when I read the first chapter.
So Ross, just going into the fact that the relationship between Seb and Malky is one of the key sort of elements or driving forces of the book. And you've got siblings in your other books as well. So you've got the bond between siblings in The Kid from Space. You've got it in Into the Sideways World, where Willa, who's one of the central characters, meets her brother who died before she was born. You've also mentioned your own brother, Roy Welford, in your acknowledgements for When We Got Lost in Dreamland, thanking him for his valuable suggestions. And you've spoken about the fact that you take inspiration from places from your childhood, such as the Spanish City, which used to be an arcade complex, which is now a restaurant complex, and formed the basis for the setting for a lab, a really high-tech lab. So are there a lot of your childhood experiences that get reflected in the story? This also goes with a question from an audience member, Veda, who asks, is this a true story or at least some part of it?
Well, in short, yes. I mean, no, it's not a true story. But yes, the elements of when I was growing up, both my family and the location when I was growing up, they all feature very, very heavily in my books. I think it's because I'm writing for children, I have to try to reconnect to my own childhood to get that emotion and to get those feelings. So I tried. I think it was my second book when I started off writing it, and it wasn't in the Northeast. It wasn't set in the area where I grew up, and I found it very, very difficult. As soon as I moved it back to the Northeast England, where I grew up, where I know what the people sound like, I know what the locations are. I don't have to dream anything up, and also they're close to my heart. So yeah, that's why I do it. And very well spotted. I have two brothers and a sister who I'm very close to, and I think it's useful in a book for characters to have people that they are close to and that they care about and that they want to fight for and they want to risk things for, and brothers and sisters very often fill that role.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like when you're not fighting with them, you definitely fight for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good dynamic to have. And also I think it makes it, because most people have brothers and sisters, not all, but most people do have brothers and sisters. It's useful to have to make that familiarity. I don't make all my characters have brothers and sisters, because I am aware that is not everybody's experience, and so I don't want singletons to feel left out. So there's a mixture of both, but usually the main character does have a brother or sister somewhere in the background.
All right, excellent. Thanks so much for that long and detailed response, Ross. So another thing that sort of struck us while we were reading is the fact that in the book, there's Seb's picture book, which is Kobe the Cave Boy, which comes to life. I mean, they choose, this is their favorite setting to go back to. So one of the members of our audience, Jahan Raj Singh, asked us, why did you decide to set the book in the Stone Age? But something that also struck us from the NLF team is the fact that Seb imagined that that being in the narrative of Kobe the cave boy would turn out a certain way, but it turned out differently, very differently from what he imagined. So when you are a reader and a writer, is it natural for you as you're reading a story to imagine alternative endings or possibilities? And as a writer, does that happen to you a lot?
Well, I think that's a very very interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I think we all it's part of the story experience that we try to work out a little bit what's going to. It's that what's going to happen, and if the storyteller's doing his job right, you don't normally guess exactly right. I think if you always guess exactly how it's going to turn out, then you finish the book and you go, oh, that didn't really surprise me very much. So yeah, I try to lead readers up the garden path a bit and put in fake clues so that when the surprise ending happens, you go, oh my God, didn't expect that. That's really quite hard to do. That is part of the that is the hard part of the craft of writing, and that is really, really hard work. And so I think that is reflected in the storybook Kobe the Cave Boy. This is a picture book that features in the story, a fictional picture book that Seb is very, very keen to reenact. And I think that comes from my own experience as a kid and also as a father, that children really do invest a lot, particularly very young children. They invest a lot in their picture books, and they do imagine what it might be like to do that. And so, again, that was something that I wanted to play with.
Oh, absolutely. You've got, actually, there's a question from an audience member which ties in with what you were saying, Usha Priyesh. Hi, Ross. You said while you were writing When We Got Lost in Dreamland, it drove you crazy. Tell us more about it. But I'm guessing that this is the part that drove you crazy, the really hard writing part.
Well, it was the whole thing. I think the thing that I found most difficult, Usha, the thing that frustrated me the most was the discovery that when you're writing about dreams, there are no limits. Normally, when you're writing a book, when you're writing any story, there are limits of the world that you create. If you're writing a world about magic spells, which I don't, but there will be limits on where the magic works. If you're writing about the real world, well, we know certain things can happen, certain things can't happen in the real world. In a dream world, absolutely anything can happen. And that was what was driving me nuts, because there were literally no limits on what could happen to the characters, just as there aren't any limits in your own dreams. And so it became quite difficult to rein it all in, to capture it all within the pages of a book without just going off onto endless tangents, which, the book could literally have been endless. That was hard.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you've spoken about the fact that it could have been a much longer book, but you had to force yourself to sort of make sure that you cut out parts.
Yeah, it's still the longest of the ones I've written, but only by about 1,000 words or so. It was hard.
I'm sure. Yeah. So another thing that we wanted to ask you, Ross, is the fact that you've been fascinated with magic when you were a child. You were gifted the illustrated book of magic tricks.
Yes.
And one of the things, and it stayed with you clearly because you're a part of the magic circle now.
Yeah.
And one of the things about, there it is.
Circle that.
Nice. One of the things that appeals to us about magic in general, to adults and children alike, is the fact that it's surprising. It surprises us. It makes the visible invisible. It makes objects seemingly return from a void. It gives us a sense that there are phenomena that may exist beyond our field of vision. And it feels like there's a parallel with this fascination with magic that you have in your personal life through all of your work, because you're talking about concepts such as time travel, there's invisibility, there's space and visitors from space, just things that exist beyond our field of vision. So do you feel like these are themes that you'll continue to come back to time and again?
I think definitely. It was only after I'd written one or two, it was probably my second or my third book, that I realized myself that what I was doing in my books was really very like a magic trick, because when you perform a magic trick, you are encouraging whoever is watching. You're encouraging them to think that something that's impossible might be possible. Okay, now we know it's not really, but you encourage them just for that moment to believe that it is possible. You make it seem as though it is. And that's very much what happens in my stories. The impossible thing that happens, it might be time travel, it might be an alien landing, it might be somebody becoming invisible. It happens not in a magical world, but it happens in the real world, in 2022, in contemporary Britain, in my case, with real people, and not with fairies and goblins and witches. And so when I'm thinking of what stories to write, I very often think, well, if this happened, what would really happen in the real world? And that's how for example, the best example of that is the book I wrote called What Not to Do If You Turn Invisible. Because a lot of people, it's almost a cliche, certainly it's a trope of children's writing. Somebody becomes invisible. We've seen it a lot, and it's a great idea. But usually it plays out with this thing being great fun. Wouldn't it be fun to be invisible? Well, I began thinking, if this was in the real world, if this was happening to me right now, it wouldn't be fun at all. It would be terrifying. It would actually be, and people would be interested. So I very often start from that point of view. I start, what would happen in the real world if this really happened? And that's a bit like constructing a magic trick, seeing something that is impossible, but just temporarily it becomes possible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite an interesting parallel. That.
Yeah, it's weird. I really, like I say, I didn't really realize that was what I was doing until my second or third book, and then I realized, that's it. I'm just doing a book-length magic trick.
Right. So now we have two writing questions for you from the audience, Ross, and we have one more question for you from the NLF team. Arush asks you, what is your writing routine? Lauren Lee asks you, do you have any method for choosing your characters' names? And from the NLF team, we wanted to ask you if any of your characters from any of your books that you're writing now or books to come could travel back in time to meet any of the characters from any of your earlier books, what would you choose?
That's an interesting question. Okay, I'll do it in order that they came. What was the first one? My writing routine. My writing routine is, it depends if you mean a daily routine or like an annual routine. All my books come out every January, so the year my writing year has a bit of a rhythm. I normally start thinking of an idea around about November, December. That is when, at the same time that I've delivered and finished the previous one. Then I'll think about it for a few weeks. Then I'll start writing and writing and writing. Then I'll go a bit crazy for a few months because I'll be absolutely convinced that I can't do it, that I can't write it, that this is not going to go anywhere. And then after a little while, as long as I keep writing, and sometimes it doesn't matter what I'm writing, so long as I'm writing something vaguely to do with the story, I will end up with enough that I will think, right, okay, I know what's going to go there. And by the summer, I will deliver a first draft to my editor, and then over the next 3 or 4 months, we'll work on it together, rewrite it, and then it all starts again. So yeah, it's a bit of a hamster wheel, really, and particularly right now. Where are we? April. Yeah, this is the time where I go a little bit crazy. Where I keep looking over there. This is where I have my computer that I'm working on. I keep looking over there, and this is the time where I begin to think, oh, this is not going to work. I know it will, but those voices in the head, What was the second question?
How do you have a method for choosing your characters' names?
Oh, choosing characters' names. Not really. They just pop into my head, really. Characters' names. I like to have interesting characters' names, but particularly in the northeast of England and contemporary Britain, classrooms are usually very diverse, with lots and lots of different nationalities. So that can be fun, picking different characters' names. But usually, the main character usually will have a name connected with the northeast, a typically northeastern name. But that's just something that I like to do to keep the books, to give the books their northeastern flavor. But yeah, I mean, I've got a character that I'm doing at the moment. She's got a great name, but this might change. But she's called Ocean Wollongong Lafayette, and I think I rather like that name. But that might change; could change anytime. And the last question was about. Remind me.
Your characters from books that you're writing now or might write in the future, if they could travel back in time to meet characters.
Yes, travel back in time to. I'd love to do that. I'm not sure if my editor would encourage it. All of my books are kind of self-contained. However, they're all absolutely self-contained. You don't have to read them in any particular order. But if you're a big fan, you will notice certain characters and certain character names popping up. So it's kind of a unified universe, if you like. There is a teacher, for example, that pops up in every story. There's a news journalist that pops up. And it's very useful to have news journalists because they can appear on TV or on the radio or write news articles that can just do a lot of plot in a short period of time. So yeah, there's a guy called Jamie Bates who also appears, a teacher, and there's places as well. So I like to put little references in and little jokes just for the super fans to spot. But yeah, so sending them back in time, not sure that would work.
All right. Okay, excellent. I'm sure all of the readers in our audience who haven't yet read all of your books might be encouraged to go and find those tiny details and be the super readers that they want to be.
I hope so. Good luck with it all.
Thanks so much, Ross. I think this half hour has just really whizzed by.
Hasn't it just? Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to do this with us.
Thank you. It's been an absolute joy, Karthika, and I wish you all the best of luck in your reading challenge. Can I just ask, do they have to do 40 books in 4 months?
That's right.
They have to read that many. That's more than I read. So, way more than I read. So, good luck with that. I think that's excellent. Good luck with it, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ross. Good luck with all the writing.
Bye-bye.
See you.